Okay, the topic for this video is selective attention. I've got a couple of different definitions here. The first one talks about an ability. The two key words here are to select and process. There's our verbs there. It's the ability to select and process certain information, very specific, and at the same time to ignore other information. You remember with sensory memory, you've got a lot of different input possibly coming from all around sensory data. We can't pay attention to all of it. So selective attention is the ability to block out certain information so that the system doesn't get overwhelmed and focus on that which you choose to focus on. Another definition that Driscoll gives is the extent to which an individual can either spread their attention across more than one task or focus their attention on a selected information within a certain task. So it's either a matter of spreading the information or focusing on certain information. We would probably call this first one multitasking. It's a big thing in our society right now, this ability to multitask. Okay, there's several factors that affect the ability to do this. First one would be the importance of the task. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you're with a group of people or at a party and you're talking with someone, and around you you can hear other people talking, the other conversations, but generally it just sounds like a hum. There's a blah 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 blah. And you're talking to someone and kind of in your peripheral hearing you hear suddenly blah 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 blah, your name mentioned. And because this is very meaningful to you, it's something very important, it grabs your attention and you shift your attention or your focus of attention at least partially to the source of that sound. I have a similar experience with Portuguese. I'll be talking with people or in a group or at a restaurant or in a store, and I'll hear someone speaking Portuguese, and because this has importance to me, since my wife is from Brazil and I have to speak Portuguese frequently when we go to Brazil, then this has an importance to me and I kind of tend to tune in on it. Another factor that affects this is similarity between competing tasks. If you're trying to focus your attention or you're trying to make a decision about which two sources of information to pay attention to, if they're very similar, two people have a similar tone of voice, or the stimulus itself is similar in a lot of ways, it can be difficult to distinguish and to choose or be able to pay attention to both. So that's an important factor that affects your ability to enact selective attention. Another factor is task complexity. If it's something simple, then you can usually do that thing and then something else. But if it's something that's a bit more complex, and if you're listening to your friend tell you about what they did last Saturday night, that's a little different than listening to an Ed Psych lecture. An Ed Psych lecture, you have to pay more attention. You have to deal with a lot of information that's new information, information for which you don't have any prior knowledge, or information that's a bit more complex, requires you to process things at a deeper level. So task complexity is a major contributor, a major factor in this process. Several other things would be something like age. Obviously, very young children have trouble with this. Sometimes older people, but most of us in the young to middle age group tend to be able to do this better. Intelligence is also a factor. People with higher IQs tend to have the ability to either focus more stringently or multitask and pay attention to more complex sources of stimuli in the environment. Another thing that would be important would be learning disabilities. If you have something like a hyperactive disorder, etc., then it's often difficult to focus on anything. So all of these can play a factor in selective attention.